Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome to the Monday edition of Second Breakfast. I hope you guys are all doing great. Had a great weekend. Little technical difficulties this morning. Trying to fix the music, but wasn't having it. Gonna have to do something completely different. What's up, Shellback? Welcome to the show. Nice comments this morning in the chat for uh, the early morning video on bequeathing land to your player characters. And I forgot to mention all of that. Hey, Squirrel, all of that actually completely and fully applies to all genres, whether it be a Western, a sci fi game, a horror game. A horror game just screams out, you inherited the haunted mansion, doesn't it? Uh, there's a just there's just so much you can do with that. I know a lot of players and the general hobby for ever, with the exception of, I'm going to say, Traveler, has always had it to where you've just gone from place to place to place, looking for the next dungeon to go explore and that sort of thing. Traveler being the exception, where it's highly recommended that you and your players, they get a ship which doubles as their home away from home, or traveling home, as it were. And I don't know what it is about the wandering lifestyle that is so. Hey, Janet, it was a lot of fun hanging out with you Saturday night. Everybody loved all of the things you showed off, all your crafts and projects and things like that. We need to bring that back. I've been watching just a lot of videos on the way people lived, the previous century, our parents and grandparents. My parents taught me a lot of things that they obviously learned from their parents, who some of which went through the Great Depression in one form or another, whether it was their grandparents, uh, and just the different ways that people recycled and did things, to save money and to stretch your dollar. Am I the only person out there that ever wore jeans with patches on them that never matched the material they were made out of? Like a red and blue patch on each knee. Uh, God, there was a time where there were like clever patches that said things on them, or had, like it was a Mickey Mouse face or something, to make it look like it was intentional, but we all knew better. You wore out those knees, and that was, of course, before it became fashionable to shred a perfectly good pair of jeans to make them look like you just wandered off the set for Mad Max or something like that. I always thought that was just incredibly tacky and fake. If you ever owned a pair of jeans and they got like that naturally, it wasn't really a good thing. But I like the idea of using those techniques and those traditions and those skills of recycling, whether it's canning and things like that with food, or turning old things into new things. Or I had some home sewn clothes at various points, but I was the oldest boy, so I got the new jeans. I was the oldest as well, but I still like my son's doing now. When I got to a certain age, I raided my dad's closet. It's like, oh, you're not wearing that shirt? Oh yeah, I'm wearing it. trying to look grown up. And I kid you not, he has taken all of my button down shirts. What's up, Cold Iron? That means that meme of three girls eating ice cream after surviving a bear attack. uh, he's taken all my good jackets, all my good dress clothes, all that stuff. He's adopted it. Mind you, I can't wear some of it anymore. I've gained some weight since the beginning of the show, and I'm working on that. But it's hard, man. I don't know about you guys, but if I'm watching a movie with the boy, I don't do it when I'm just like watching. Like right now, I'm watching The Prisoner. I don't do that. Uh, Janet, I am not going to point out the glaring discrepancy with that statement, but I am going to giggle a little. Uh, yeah. Uh, oh, popcorn. If I'm watching, like right now, I'm watching The Prisoner. I don't make popcorn, but the other night we were watching Return of the Jedi, so I had to make popcorn. I mean, yeah, it's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm going to go to bed in 2 hours. But yeah, I'm going to make some popcorn, and we're going to enjoy the movie. And then, of course, when my boy's done with his bowl of popcorn, he's going to come over to mine and start, not to mention the little guy down here, the four-legged freeloader. Uh, he will not leave us alone until he sees us put the popcorn bowls up on the counter in the kitchen. You know, he just loves whatever it is we're eating. I'm not kidding. If I were to take a rock and cover it in gravy and throw it at him, toss it to him, he would try to finish it. Uh, he could chew horses. How many people can chew a horse anymore? Not too many. Not too many of us I know that have actually ever ridden a horse. I used to ride horses all the time growing up. I had a friend who owned her own horse and stable, and good times for sure. Absolutely. I love horses. Horses are probably my second favorite animal. Dogs, of course, being number one. You can't learn how to properly pilot a B wing from watching Return of the Jedi without popcorn. Right, right. Oh gosh, you know, I went through a phase where I could not stand Star Wars. Uh, it didn't last long because all it takes is, uh, having a son or a daughter that hits the age of about 7 to 9, and you got to throw those movies in, and they still hold up today. Still, some of the best storytelling when it comes to fantasy of all time. And Empire Strikes Back, just chef's kiss, the perfect movie. What's up, Omen? Horses are expensive if you don't have the land. I like donkeys better than horses. Yeah, but donkeys are not cool. They have never been cool. They will never be cool. They are, um, they're kind of gross for some reason. I want to say they just seem like big, smelly, kind of ornery beasts of burden, whereas a horse has all that nobility behind it, and lore and majesty, and just the imagery. Riding into battle on a donkey or a mule just doesn't have the same get up and go. I actually like the Ewok movies better than a Return of the Jedi. Okay, you just starting shit this morning, right off the bat. There were some things I noticed about the Ewoks in the third movie uh, that I had noticed before. Uh, just some of the ridiculousness of their traps and things like that. Friendly, really. I would have never guessed. Shellback says, my folks are on a homestead. They have a bunch of chickens and do the canning and gardening and such. Their Instagram is Yellowknife Homestead. I will have to take a look at that if you send me a link. Otherwise, I promise you I will forget because something will come along. But if you send me a link, I'll go check out their stuff. Donkeys are fighter good for protecting livestock. Horses are flight animals. Well, nowadays more so, but back in the day, I mean, slow down there, Don Quixote. Nice, Paul. And if any of you want to pop in, you know where the link is. If you don't, let me know. I'll put the link in. Someone isn't familiar with donkeys, loyalty beyond loyalty. I don't know. My dog is pretty loyal. He's loyal to a fault, to be honest. If every time I go outside, like to go, like I'll go into the garage to spray or prime or something, and he's got to go. I mean, he's got to go pee on stuff. It's just that's going to happen. And if you don't, he will sit and whine and bark and carry on until you let him out. And then I kid you not, there's this guy in my neighborhood who likes to jog, and Chewy sees him and like, oh, human running, got to chase. And I'm like, dude, you're about to get me into a lawsuit. No, no, and no. Freaking calm the shit down. But the same thing with leaves and rabbits and squirrels. Right, Janet. Which is really weird because what do they do in the wild? Wild horses. How do they keep that from happening? I know they can't like dogs and cats will chew on their nails and other animals to trim them down. What do horses do in the wild? Or do they just live like 2 years and then just fall over and that's it? I never understood that. But just the whole knight in shining armor, the Lone Ranger, all of those tropes and images from yesteryear, just right there, man. It's just something about it is just amazing, and I'm always going to be a big fan of all of that. And it's just there's just something about it. I don't know how to explain it, but I've always appreciated it. Probably because I grew up early on being around horses, and my family on my mom's side they raised Tennessee walking horses, so uh, I was always hearing about them, and my mom was always drawing and painting them, and I might even still have a painting of hers of a I think it was a Prussian soldier leading his wounded horse somewhere. But I even have one of those Breyer plastic horses that's probably older than I am. It's like a little broken, like an ear is chipped off or something. But it's still in the collection that was my mom's. She used to have like a crap ton of those, but over the years, only the one survived. Okay, well that's kind of what I figured, but I mean, how can humans excessively wear a horse down more than a wild horse? I mean, every time you see them, they're just freaking running somewhere. The same with other animals like moose and elk. I think I always wondered, how do they, you know, how do they make do? I guess. So, anybody out there crafting, working on any fiddly projects of your own? I found another mini I got to fix because Jackie and the gang. Uh, you on X with the link since you don't have you on any other socials. Yeah, I need to do the X thing, but it's just like I'm on Rumble, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. Okay, that's a good point. They don't walk on concrete. Uh, and I never use any of those things. The only reason I go to Facebook is when the Beelzebub posts something because we were following along with him and his things, and the Red Room they'll post on Facebook, and Arduin I think Emperor's Choice. Uh, I do those things, but I don't go on my own. It's like, hey, what's going on Facebook? I never do that. I used to, and I got burnt out with just nonstop missing person posts that I would have to share so that maybe somewhere out there someone would see it, and the odds of that actually being effective even after the thousands I've posted, very rarely do I see a follow up where the person was found and brought home safely. It's just super depressing. And with what I used to do, it makes it all the more uh, disconcerting and painful to watch. When you see a little kid that just disappeared, or even a senior. I've noticed that a lot too lately. When I was doing that, there were a lot of seniors just disappearing. Uh, I'm here on Instagram and Discord. That is plenty for me. So Squirrel, I missed something. Oh gosh, gotta remember I can't use my touch screen when it comes to this stuff. Horses are like supermodel girlfriends, pain in the rear and expensive. I would not know. I mean, I usually date pretty women, but supermodels, yeah, I wouldn't. I no, just no. Um, so yeah, I've got about two, four, six, eight, nine minis on my table right now that I'm trying to just put away for good. Uh, all of these minis have been on my table for over a year. Then I got nine over there. Then I've got about 45, 50 over here. Another 25 of these little 6 mil guys, but I can't get. You see that? You see how tiny that is? They're cool looking and really up really close, but I just can't get into it because I know even when I'm done, I'm just going to put them in a box and I may never use them. It's for a game for these airship models that I saw, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I want to be part of that. I want to do that, whatever that is. And I can't find the rules for the game. I can't find any more ships that don't look like literally junkers because that's kind of what they are. They're like merchants and pirates just made out of scraps, and it could be fun, kind of like that gypsy wagon that came out from Archon Studios. It was just covered with stuff, just a million different things to paint, just for it to look like a hodgepodge of baskets and barrels and crates and chests and stuff all strapped to a freaking wagon. There's even a shelf of potions, like they're the traveling snake oil salesman as well. And it was just like, oh, there's just so much detail that I shelved that for a while. I could spend 6 months on that. Uh, Shellback, these are from a game called Sector Alex, Alix, and it's a 15 mil scale game of airships and airship combat with little floating cities or settlements and flying air creatures like flying squids and things like that. There's even some of these cool little hover cycles or air jet cycles. This is really freaking cool with a sidecar. Um, but these guys look like they're just going to tear the crap out of any junker. They're just sleek, militaristic. Even though it's only got the one gun, it still looks like it's just going to, stomp all over the makeshift ramshackle piratey merchant vessels. And it came out a long time ago on Kickstarter, and it's still out there on Etsy and places like that. And I think they have a website, but nothing new. They haven't done anything new in years. And I'm like, I really dig this stuff, but I know I'm just not going to get to use it. Squirrel says, I grew up around horses. My aunt and uncle had 4 or 5. My two cousins used to show them. Definitely a beautiful animal. Absolutely. I was always a big fan of rodeo as well. And where I live right now, there's one, two, three. There's like four little ranches with a bunch of horses. And if you travel, about 10 miles away, there's all kinds of pastures with cattle and horses and alpaca and things like that. So it's a nice drive getting to where we live. But I have never had any delusions of raising or owning them myself. Like Owen said, it's a lot of money and a lot of heartbreak potential when you get attached to an animal, and its lifespan is much shorter than ours, and there's all kinds of bad things that can happen to them. I got excited a decade or so for that Leviathan game that the company currently in control of Shadowrun and Battletech IP was promising to do, but that didn't happen. Uh, and there's a bunch of miniature games like that, unfortunately. Yeah, there really are. And for large games, I prefer a smaller scale, but the boys got no time, and the likelihood of me inviting strangers into the house is just it's not going to happen. Owen says my child support goes to take care of over a dozen plus horses. There's a joke in there, Omen, but I assume you're referring to your ex-wife and not something else. Donkeys and horses are live 20 to 40 years. Okay, I thought it was on the lower end of the 20 maybe, but even then, my dog he's about 15 years old, and he's still spry sometimes, but he spends at least 20 hours a day asleep, and it's like you know as jealous as I am of that, I'm still like, what's the point? I'm sure if you told him that, he'd be like, screw you, I'm enjoying my doggy life, butt out. But I know that in a couple of years or so, that'll be it for him. And I've already decided it when that day comes, and after we bury him in the backyard to remember him, as long as we can, we're going to go right out to the pound and get two more. Next time we'll get two animals, two dogs. Jackie wants a cat, and I'm like, "Are you crazy? I'm not paying for that." Not to mention, I cannot I absolutely cannot tolerate an animal on my tables and chairs and countertops. Just no. You got four legs, and all three of them at least better be touching the ground at all times. Um, just I can't do it. Not to mention the fact that the whole litter box thing, and my dog has a place to go poo in the backyard, and we take care of that, and it doesn't cost us a dime to do. A cat, over the course of its life can be, literally tens of thousands of dollars. God forbid you have to take him to the vet. I'm not doing that. I think I've spent $8 on my dog in his entire life. Glorified pets, they don't train them like they deserve. Yeah, again with the rodeo, um, a lot of training, a lot of bonding. Some of it may seem kind of cruel, but at the same time, and cats are retarded. No, they're evil. Let's everything they do is intentional. Even when you think they're being retarded, they're just failing a die roll. Have you ever seen a cat like try to jump or do something, and it messes up? It looks everywhere to make sure nobody was watching, um, because they're narcissistic little bastards. Mm. So one of the minis I'm working on, one of my favorite minis of all time. It's this like armored robed, kind of like it's almost an exact copy of the old Space Marine jetpack backpack. But what sells this mini for me more than anything else, I don't know if you can see what's in his hand. He's holding this incredibly cool frisbee of death. He's just about to huck that at somebody, and this little remote drone is just gonna freaking fly through and cut off somebody's head or arm or something. It's just so original. You never see anything like that. Mind you, this is an alternative armies command officer mini. It came in a 4 pack of other minis that are just very very Space Marine looking. 2, 3, clearly a melt a gun from the old days. And then this guy with a like a tricorder I thought was kind of cool. Kind of like the army man with the binoculars, but the sci-fi version. And this particular guy, I've got two of them now, and I can get more, and I'm thinking about doing so. It's just it was such a unique thing, and over the years I've had not this one, but the other one I have is purple. I've had it for oh gosh, close to 40 years maybe. I got it from Brooker's Hobbies over on Brookers and Hazard in Orange County, and I saw it in the pack, and I'm like, "What? That is really freaking cool." And I've kept it. The purple one I've actually stripped four times and repainted because my skill level has gotten better over the years. And this one, because I want to do him in white, uh, which is like the dumbest choice I could make, I think, because of how hard it is to paint white and keep it, looking pristine and whatnot. That I'm just slowly risking putting any paint on it because I want to use a gray wash to get in the fold lines of the robe. And the wash that I have is really nice, but in that it flows in really nicely. But whatever it touches, it stains just ever so slightly to the point where you have to go over and dry brush it. And that's where the problem starts because if you don't dry brush properly and the paint doesn't just blend into the primer or the original white, you can see, like if you've ever had a wall painted improperly and you can just see that patch is just like you know that it's not blended in, it's not sprayed, the whole thing, it's just a patch. And they tried to make it work, and that happens with white more than anything. My cat at my folks' house successfully hunted a mouse in the basement of my folks' house, then presented it to my mom, but forgot to kill it, so the mouse was able to get away. Chewy does that with anything. I mean, he can hear a lizard in the back corner of the house. I don't know, maybe he smells it, but he will just go freaking nuts trying to catch any little thing that moves that's bigger than a butterfly. And he's hunted down a couple of rats. Tried to get. He's still got an ongoing war with the squirrel that lives in the back tree over here. He could just hear that little squirrel or smell him. I've literally seen the squirrel sitting on the fence, just like chittering away, laughing at my dog. Practically pointing, "Ha ha ha! You can't get me," kind of thing. It's hysterical, and Chewy's just sitting there, tail wagging, like "Oh, I can't wait to eat you." It's never going to happen. And if Chewy were to ever get a hold of the squirrel would just rip his face apart. All four claws just. So I got to keep him away because even if he were to get a good chomp and crush him in the middle, he's still going to walk away with needing some rabies shot or something. Not to mention what could happen to his eyes and his nose and all that stuff. So I got to keep him away. But he heard me talking about it. Now he's moping away. But he loves chasing just about anything you would think of, like the mailman. And he won't. Once he gets into that mode, he doesn't even hear you anymore. He just, I'm going to get the thing. I'm going to get the thing. And that thing could land us in court. Were he to get a hold of a person, especially a child or somebody else's dog. And you know the deal, folks. If anything like that ever happens, the solution our government has come up with on all situations is put it down. Even if the dog was defending your property against a burglar, your dog is going to get executed by the state, which is effed up because you get a guard dog to protect the family, and then when it protects the family, oh, it went too far. Brr, 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 brr. It's like, yeah, what about the guy who broke into my house with a knife? You know, That's why I envy the folks who have pig farms. Just saying. What? No, we didn't have any visitors. No, no, no. What you talking about? You got a warrant? Okay, then fuck off. But he's a good boy. He's probably barking at a car driving by right now. And since I am, for the most part, here alone today, I can't go and shut him up without leaving you guys to watch dead air. I'm real sorry about this morning's late show. I really couldn't do anything about that. But rest assured, I should have all those issues solved by tomorrow. Jackie has his graduation. Oh, what the heck is that? And then, well, his graduation is Wednesday. He has a practice graduation today at his high school, then another practice graduation at the college. Like, how hard is it? I mean, you sit in your chair when your name gets called, you come up and you grab the the diploma and you walk off. Although I think he might, because he's a valedictorian, he may have to give a speech. I don't know. I remember that kind of being a thing back in the day, but we'll see if I can record it. I will, and then I'll post it on Discord. You guys can check it out and you know see the little guy all grown up. You believe it? 2020, August of 2020, he was just 11 years old, doing his Jim Lemmy thing. I don't even know what that was. It was an alternate persona he made for his own, like, videos that he was making as a kid, sort of like a uh, nighttime, TV show host, and he just really used to ham it up. I miss those days, but I'm also looking forward to all the other cool stuff that he and I are gonna get to do. Yeah, that's what I thought. Omen, I don't know how many there are either. I could have swore in the old days there was like one, and I was like, there's no way he's the only one out of his school. I mean, it kind of wouldn't surprise me, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be like you know 10 or 12 of them or something like that. So that could be part of it. But you know, uh, right, right, Owen. We'll see. We'll be going there Wednesday to watch it and congratulate him, and then go out to dinner or something like that. I'm kind of bummed. I did something stupid. Friday night we went out to dinner, and apparently I left my ATM card at the restaurant or somewhere. I mean, I could have left it anywhere really, but it's the last time I used it, and I got home and Sunday after church I needed to use my ATM card. And I'm like, where's my ATM card? Looked all over for it, all the usual places, couldn't find it. So I had to call in the bank and have them, send me a new one, which means for like a week, I can't buy anything, man. I got like some cash in my wallet, but I can't feed that into the internet to make purchases. And I got a bunch of stuff I told myself last month that it's like, yeah, I'm going to get this thing and I'm going to get that thing at the beginning of the month. So it really, really sucks. I wish there was a faster way other than just, mailing it. I should be able to go to my local branch. I mean, it's like 10 minutes away. I should be able to go there, walk in, and then just go or something, here's a new card. But no, no, they're not. They're not. Where is his special meal? I don't know. To be honest, he probably won't want to go out to dinner because he'll want to get back home and talk with his friends like this, you know, or work on one of his projects, one of his videos, and or just chill out, gel out, watch videos and stuff like that, which is really, really not healthy. He is going to be having a game with his friends over like next week. I don't know exactly what if you're trying to make a joke there, Torians. They didn't let me do a speech. Well, knowing you, Eldrad, just saying. But hopefully we'll go to someplace, someplace nice Wednesday night. But I don't know. He kind of doesn't really like sit down dinners anymore either because he just wants to, get the heck, upstairs into his room and do the same things all the other kids are doing online, and instead of like what we did, if it was me and it was my graduation day, uh, I'd be out with a bunch of friends. We'd be having dinner at a restaurant, just us, talking about the year and what we're going to do during the summer, and you know, uh, how we're going to always stay in touch, always be friends, uh, that kind of thing. I was one of the many celebrated D students. I get it now. I did okay. My last year of high school, I made honor roll, and I got a letter of recommendation from the head of the Department of Agriculture because I was working with the Rangers, and I got my first aid, life saving, and CPR certificates, and had like a 4.0 average. Of course, the boy had to one up me or two up me, 4.2. Got the last point one just a couple of days before the cutoff because he raised his. How do you get a D in art? Being him, you know what I mean? How do you guys know him? How does he get a freaking D in art? Oh yeah, because he slacked off and didn't turn in a project until the last freaking minute. Yeah, a home cooked meal. If I did that, he would just ask for spaghetti. That's his favorite home cooked meal. What's up, Vic? Back in '88, they had our graduation on a weekday, like a Monday or a Tuesday. Yeah, his is on a Tuesday. It should be on a Friday, and they should all, after school get together and have their first cigarette or some shit like that. I'm glad they're not like that anymore. Things have changed a lot. The idea of smoking, maybe vaping, some of them, but he doesn't hang out with that crowd. Drinking or smoking a joint, none of that crap is popular. By his age, I'd done all that and more, and I'm so grateful that's no longer popular with his crowd or his kind of the kind of kids he hangs out with. Mind you, it's not like a racial thing. It's a success and achievement kind of thing, and upwardly mobile, making sure they don't make those dumb mistakes. Afternoon, all Vic says, just typing away on my game planet of Thayer. I don't really know what that is. Our valedictorian had a 4.95 or something like that. Honors added plus one. You mean like plus point one or plus one? Because he had all of that. In addition to, being a major in JROTC, working on the school newspaper, being in band, and just like everything you can imagine, he tried to do. He was in one of the school plays. He should have been in Little Shop of Horrors, but that's a completely different story. All right, it's almost 2 a.m. here. for me to get to bed. Enjoy your Monday. Thanks, Shellback. We'll see you maybe tomorrow. If I don't get a guest or two in here in the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to call it a day and go do some of my things that I got to do while the wife and boy are away. She's got a doctor's appointment, so she took the day off so she could take him to school, and he'll be home in a couple hours after practice. And I want to try and get some writing done. Yeah, I dated this girl with one of those 4 point something somethings or whatever. Yeah, I did as well, but I also dated a lot of DNF students as well. It really wasn't about that. It was about that cool factor. Uh, full point. Okay, well then that's kind of cheating. I don't know, or an over exaggerated point. What do I want to discuss? I don't know. I did a video this morning. You probably didn't see on giving property as rewards instead of gold and magic items. Not necessarily like here you go, your third level, you get a castle, but like here your third level, you got a cabin or you've got a small house or a plot of land. Do what you want with it. You can watch the video and see all that. There's each case would be different, for the group or the individual character. I'll throw the link in there in case you want to pop in, Vic. We had a good discussion last week. Okay, come on. What are you doing? Eldrad, Squirrel, all you guys, you want to pop in, feel free. I'm just chilling for the meantime, and looking forward to the summer. I'm really jealous of my friends at Emperor's Choice and everywhere else. Smart girls were way more fun, and they like bad boys or something. When they found out I was nice, I got dumped. I'm sorry to hear that. I what's up, Vic? I dated all kinds of
Not
girls.
much.
It was, it was always a crap shoot. What, I dated a minister's daughter. I dated a lot of, uh,
Let's not talk about the minister's daughter.
yeah, I was the bad boy or one of the bad boys at school, and you know, it all depended. All I know is that for the most part, the girls I really, really, really wanted to date weren't having it. Um, you're at work, so you can't, Eldrad. So what are you up to, Vic? You have a good weekend?
Yeah, we played D&D on Saturday. We
Nice.
got the game going, and I introduced
Uh,
them to my new world
okay,
of
just real quick, gotta ask, what edition?
first edition AD&D.
Yes, that's the shit, man. That's the shit.
Yeah, we got
I
high praise from a couple people coming into the store and they say we don't even know if people played that anymore. I was like, oh well, you're more
no,
than
yeah,
welcome to
there's,
join.
um, I want to say it's one of the more popular of the older editions. I know there's a lot of people out there that still like 2E, but 2E was kind of like,
You know what my opinion on 2E?
no, I don't know what it is.
My
You don't
opinion
like
is
it?
it was a cop out by what's her name, Lorraine Williams to
Okay, we
the
are on exactly the same page. There was some good stuff. I'm not going to lie. There was some good stuff. What they did with the thief and the priest, top notch, needed to be done. Okay, so your thief could specialize and not just have generic numbers across the board, which got incredibly like ridiculous at high levels. All of them were great, whereas in 2E you could put points wherever you wanted because that's what you were using, or you needed. Like, there were player characters I know that never used some of their abilities ever.
Oh, I know.
Or like the read languages or move silently, stuff like that. Omen has joined the group. How's it going, Omen? Long time no see.
Lunch.
And it's just it 2E took out a lot of my favorite stuff. Especially when it came to art. Just saying. Okay, I don't know what happened to Omen. I let him in. 2E is the 4E of OSR. Fight me. Um, in a way, and I know there's a lot of the other editions. Prior to third BX, whatever. To us, we'd already been playing AD&D since the Player's Handbook of DMG came out. So when it came out as basic or whatever, not the Holmes box, which was even worse, it just seemed like watered down, stuff for the kids to get the new guys into it. So we just kept on going with what we were doing until 2E came out. And we were still, at that time trying to hunt down rare Dragon magazines or rare modules or other things. So there was plenty of AD&D stuff to keep us busy well into the end of 2E.
Oh yeah. Well,
And I
to be
get,
fair, BX. Well, to be fair, BX outsold because it was a simplified version. You didn't have to read 800 pages.
Yeah, but that's only part of the dumbing down of our country and our civilization.
Dumbing down. It's not dumbing down. It's to make something. I know that you're talking about that, but there's a reason Advanced was meant for tournaments and BX was meant for people. I mean, if you read a lot of this stuff, a lot of AD&D was intended to be used with large parties. BX actually assumed that you were only going to have 2 to 4 people playing, and it made it simple.
But it was,
it
was
basic. Of course, it was until you got the companion and master.
It was designed for the lowest common denominator, which meant that a lot of people came into the hobby. Not saying they didn't deserve to be into the hobby or anything like that, but they weren't equipped to hang with the big boys.
It wasn't
intellectually.
AD&D was intended. I mean, look at the ages. That was intended for college initially, and BX was intended for middle school. I mean, I'm just being honest about that.
Right, and
then people slowly phased over.
Right, and my 12-year-old brain was able to comprehend everything except the math for like the Wall of Stone spell. I couldn't figure that out because I was only 12, but I could figure out everything else. Everything else was easily understood by my. And mind you, I was not an A student at that time. I was a C and D student because I hated school. But when I got those books, I'm like, finally something I can use my brain for and my imagination and blah blah blah. And it just seemed like, well, now you got all these, mouth breathers coming into the hobby, and we got to dumb everything down for them.
I don't feel you had to dumb down a lot of stuff. That the problem really is, again, like we found out yesterday, AD&D was not well written. It just wasn't.
Well, compared to what?
Compared to BX, AD&D was not well written.
Compared to anything that came before it, it was the best.
That's like saying I was the first person to invent a spear point.
Well, right. My point is that you can't help but improve anything if you have the previous edition to go by. They were standing on the shoulders of giants and shitting on them.
No, it was bifurcated. And let's be honest, as Gary did that to split it off so he didn't have to give revenue to Arneson.
And then they did it to him, justice or karma or what have you. I get that. And
like I said, a lot of it is it's not that, again, I grew up on AD&D and I said, it's for kiddies, that's why I don't play it. But actually, when I look at game design, BX was a far better game design.
But it literally couldn't help it.
Like I said, is BX, again, I had already switched over to AD&D, but AD&D had contradictory roles and all sorts of stuff. And
BX absolutely. A lot of it, but at the time, they didn't have, the technology to network and communicate the way they did.
They had Dragon Magazine.
Yeah, Dragon Magazine was.
If you read Dragon Magazine, they had tons of articles exactly identifying the same problems that we have today. and they chose not to. They chose not to update it in Unearthed Arcana. They chose not to update it in, when they did the new covers, which would have been easy to fix for AD&D. I'm just saying that if you look at it,
Okay.
as BX was intended to be, the spells
let
were
me
better
interject
written.
here,
Sure.
because I was friends with Ernie, and I talked to him a long time about how things went down with AD&D and stuff. And his dad, he told me his dad was looking at AD&D second edition as to straighten out the messes that happened with the first edition. So, I mean, it would have been a better thing if Gary would have been able to stick around. With Lorraine Williams taking over, it totally put the axe to it. She had to cater. She was catering to, because Gary wasn't going to do it. She catered to that right wing element, saying, "Oh, demons and devils." That's what everything was, taken out of the
Pussified.
Bibles. So
Well, I mean, I listened to Tim Cass talk about it. He said, "Good God, it helped. They didn't have to. They didn't have to deal with a lot of that crap once they did it." And I understand. They kept all the stuff in. They just renamed it. Let's be honest.
Right, but see, rename. Not only did they rename it, but they reclassified it, and they took away something of the universally known and
But the
accepted
charm, yeah.
definition of evil. Demons and devils were the apogee of evil, the absolute epitome of evil, and they became just another misunderstood race in another dimension. And you and your preconceived notions, making them the bad. They were the bad guys. They were the ultimate bad guys. They made dragons like go, oh shit. You know what I mean? And Chris, absolutely, the first edition Ranger. I know the magic-y stuff doesn't make perfect sense, but that's what made it so awesome. Was it gave you an idea of some flavor that made the mountain man different from just a guy who lives in the woods. You know what I mean? It made him this 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 mysterious, powerful woodland force of nature almost. And taking all that away, just making him just a thief of the woods was, sure you could have that, for someone who doesn't want to get into all the other crap, but taking away all that cool shit, the specifically the magic usury stuff, which made I know no sense. There's no reason. Druid stuff, oh, that all totally makes sense, but it just gave it, a unique flavor and character that was just lost from that point on, in my
Well, I mean,
opinion.
I would have liked to have seen, Gygax's second edition. I would have, um,
Mhm.
but I just don't. But I don't hold the
And
whole
like I
thing.
said before,
Is even when he was there, he didn't do it. Was what I'm trying to say.
mhm.
And what I mean
Well,
by that is not
he
even a
I
second
mean,
edition. Just, I mean, there were several books that had his name on it that he didn't say, "Hey, by the way, let's fix this," or "By the way, let's fix that." Um,
yeah, it just wasn't for me, and I'd already, you know,
well,
uh,
you guys know that the Unearthed Arcana was a 6-week thing. It wasn't. That's what Ernie told me. It was like 6 weeks they had to get that thing out, and that's why they didn't. The play tested the Barbarian was never play tested, and that's why it was so awful. And they came out with the Dragon magazine article about Barbarians afterwards. So, I
I
I
mean,
have
thought
that
that
issue.
I thought that they came out with the. I mean, most of those classes in there were all in previous Dragon magazines.
Not the barbarian. That
not the
I thought the
barbarian was
Barbarian was
so
63.
ridiculously overpowered. Um,
It, Barbarian
with
was Dragon Magazine 62 or 63. The Cavalier was 7. They had it in Dragon Magazine.
I
I
don't
don't know.
remember
This is what this
the
is what Ernie was telling me. So I
Sure.
mean, I'm just going by what somebody that was there and had to come
Yeah.
back from California with his dad, and they had to churn that out as quickly as possible because that was the only way it was going to save the company at that point because of ridiculous overspending by the Bloom brothers and
Well,
everybody having a
didn't
car
Oriental
and
Adventures
everything.
Came out at the same time?
What'd you
Oriental
say?
Adventures came out at the same time as Unearthed Arcana. Adventures came out at the same time as Unearthed Arcana.
Hmm. I don't know.
I would have loved to see more books like Oriental Adventures. It was, to be honest, it was one of the best books they ever wrote.
Well, they had
Um,
Greyhawk, they had Dragonlance. I actually liked Manual of Planes as well. I think those were all
it's
first
fun, but
edition.
it's so for its time, it was perfect, I guess, for that field of discussion. But the Oriental Adventures, it was like almost a whole brand new game with the proficiencies and the honor and the events and the life,
Oh yeah.
connections, all of that. If you'd done that in 2E, done all of that,
Well, they did do some
would
of
have been
that.
a huge saving grace. Those simple mechanics and rules for all of that made all the characters just a lot more interesting, and more than just the one page description of the Wu Jin or the Yakuza or things like that. Uh, Even the samurai, it gave them so much more, so many more ways to be different. I know everybody says, "Oh, I can make up 10 different fighters and they'll all be different." Yeah, because they use different weapons. Whoop de fucking do. That's it. If you don't throw in the skills or something like that, they will by ninth level all end up being very freaking similar.
See, I
You
really
know,
did.
I got a question for you guys. I got a
Sure.
question. Do you guys slowly wind down your campaigns when they get to that eighth, ninth level where they're supposed to be having all these?
I'm gonna let you handle that one for me.
So for Shadow, we're still trying to get there. The big issue really that I've found is trying to get players to show up. That's what winds the campaign down. It's not anything else.
Mhm.
Um, and again, it's not that I'm against everything. I joke about stuff. And I may be wrong about Unearthed Arcana. I think that Oriental Adventures came out at the same time as the Masters set. And I liked what the Masters did with the weapons, which is what I really wish that they had done instead of weapon specialization for D&D, is that they had gone more like the Oriental Adventures where you could get specialty, attacks for your different weapons, or like they did with the Masters. I think that would have really improved it. And I wish that they had done that because I like the idea of, guess what? The weapon does more damage as you become more specialized. Oh, guess what? You can also have special abilities. Oh, look, it gives you additional armor class. So you don't have to rely necessarily on the shield if you get like a pole arm. I,
Mhm.
I think it's a really cool idea that I think that if I was going to run an AD&D game, I would just pull it out directly from that um, rather than doing because I don't like the characters being specialized at the very first level. I like to okay, your first specialization is at third, and then fifth, and then you're seventh, and by the time you're in 11th level, then you get that true grand master. At which point you're like, okay, that's something that's really scary. Um,
Hey,
because
Eldrad, that's why you send them to a new planet where they don't have any of the magic anymore and stuff.
so I'm not, I'm not
I've never ever needed to take anything away from the players, um, except on a really temporary level, like in the game that Omen's in. I think they went to a place where the magic level in that like dimension or whatever was just at a diminished level for reasons, but they got out. I the game Omen and I are in. It's between 8th, ninth, and 13th, 14th level characters, and each player has two characters. And for me, the sweet spot is ninth level and up, not fifth to seventh. I've done all of that so many times. Getting a group where everybody has like their building, and their henchmen and their followers and their army and all that cool shit is like something that I have yet to meet a DM that could do it, wanted to do it, or has even done it. They all just like fail or drop the game at before that point. They're just like,
So
I'm not doing that. Nobody wants to do that. I can't handle it. I can't come up with challenges. I'm like, well, yeah, because you kept resetting your game at 7th to 8th level and going back to the beginning. So ingrained in your freaking thought pattern is this is the game. First to seven, first to seven, first to seven. No, there's a whole wide world of 9th and 10th level monsters in the monster manual that you can throw more than one at the party now. You can do those big sweeping campaigns. You can break out your battle systems and run, army skirmishes or a full on war. You can even just roll per freaking centage and see how the battle goes and just ad lib all that shit while the players are standing up on the battlements giving orders. That could be just as exciting. Or you could have that, 10th level fighter on his horse charge into battle with his men and take those 10 swings and there goes 10 orcs, there goes 10 orcs, there goes 10 orcs a melee round. Pull that,
so
do that Sauron kind of thing, or your magic user who's fireballing an army and taking out scores of dudes or orcs or whatever.
I mean, for me, that's why I like Axe, is it encourages players to do that. The fact that the system's designed for that higher level. The problem that I have with it is everyone wants to do the adventure level, and then they're like, okay, we've done enough adventuring, we're done. And it's like, look, I'd rather them start doing the politics and raising armies and conquering, and hey, raise your army of 500,000 guys to go
Mhm.
attack or take over the continents. And Axe has that built
Squirrel,
in,
squirrel.
but
I got Rule Cyclopedia Squirrel, and when I got to Race's class, I just shut the book. I hate that idea. I could easily, I mean, in like one day, I could come up with some rules for humans that would make humans just as on par with your first level elf, dwarf, hobbit, gnome, whatever. All the little bonuses they get that seem, to so many DMs. Oh, it's overpowered. The elves get all this cool shit, and humans get nothing. There's a couple of little mechanics you could just throw in there that would make them all, viable. How come every edition after what was it, second edition, and even second edition did that, was removing more and more of the restrictions on what level they can get to, like it's a guarantee. People forget about that in like AD&D. An elf fighter magic user starts out with some cool shit, and if he's lucky and he's got some chainmail and he's casting magic missile and chainmail, yes, that's badass. But his hit points are so reduced, you know what I mean, as to make him no longer viable as a frontline fighter. So he's not really a fighter. He's a fighter, but not your tank. And he still has to earn the freaking experience points to get to keep pace with the humans. If he's a split class or multi-class, they're gonna be sucky for so long when they finally do get to like 7 and 7, like 7th level this, 7th level that, right? And everybody else in the party is like 12th level.
no, they aren't.
They're
If you
still
actually
having a
look at
hard
the
time.
no, if you look at the XP, you're going to be, if you do dual class or split class, you're only going to be about one level behind, right up until you hit about
Okay,
ninth level.
I was
I
being
mean,
a little hyperbolic, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but I mean, but you're only like one level behind. It's only when you get to those really high levels that you start falling behind.
Mhm.
Um, but at that point, again, there's different things. Like I said, I like looking at how different ones work out and how things get numbered. But I do think that the problem that I have with it is that even for AD&D, AD&D never really had a good battle system. Battle system was not that good, and that
No,
was
it
my
was just
issue.
adding zeros and just throwing everything in a chunk, and just add a zero because there's 10 of them, you
Well,
know.
no, I mean, I'm okay with some of it. It just was not well. They didn't figure it out for spells, for example.
Hmm.
I just saw that's why Warhammer came out, because hey, let's do mass battles, but they didn't do that well either. Um,
No, no.
well, the
The
problem
one,
is
two,
that it's
three,
certain.
and four hit point rule was. I mean, I
Well,
get
no,
it,
no, that wasn't the
but
problem. My problem was that it was not meant for mass battles. It was meant for slightly larger battles. So now you went up to like 20 per side. It was not intended for, hey, guess what? We're going to go play, the, where Crassus decides to fight, the, Julius Caesar. It's not scalable for that.
I don't know
And
because I was able to use it with thousands on a side. Unfortunately, the players hated it because they were a bunch of pussies and thought that everything was just gonna, like, 400 dudes are just gonna fire arrows at them, you know. And I'm like, yeah, no, because they're not gonna be able to see you, or pick you out of a crowd. The same rules are gonna apply, if they're firing into melee and you're in a melee with, a squad of, you know, ogres or some shit. They're going to hit more ogres than you. You know what I mean?
oh
Just
yeah,
by the six-sided die roll mechanic.
well, part of it is that, again, like I said, I grew up with chits. When we're talking about Gettysburg and
Same here.
Antietam and stuff like that, it was like, oh, okay. So at a certain point, it's even the most dangerous unit where you want to, get the commander. If you're only aiming at the commander, you're ignoring all the other units shooting at you. So,
hmm
and
hmm
it's, and a lot
And
of it are
when the
casualties.
commander has no flunkies around him, he becomes a lot less effective.
He does, but in most cases, even then, there's always someone to replace them, so you can do that. And then, the problem that I had with it was with the battle system per se. Is it they really did not do a good job for some of the spells because that's really where you need to work on it the most. Um,
I don't
you
really
know,
remember that so much,
well, that's
but
just it. It's that they had like a big monster. Like, oh, okay, well, they didn't like model some of the stuff that were the primary rules. Like, well, okay, your hero character should be going through like really low level monsters pretty quickly. Um, or
uh
to be fair, your hero should still worry about 100 X farts or kobolds charging him if he's alone. Um,
yeah.
so there was again, I like the idea of battle system. I didn't like the implementation as much as they could have. Um, and I never had chainmail, which is what you were supposed to do for mass combats under AD&D. Um,
Vic,
and I
what's your
think,
sweet spot
What do you
for
mean? Oh,
levels?
for players? I
Yeah.
first through eighth, I guess. I mean, I just when I get past eighth, I start going by the rules, and I'm like, well, I got to set up a keep. You got to have these people. You got to have this, and it bogs down the game because I'm having to do administration bullshit that I hate doing. I was like, oh God, how do I do this in administration? And then, I I just can't do it. I just hate doing the administration stuff. And
Well,
I
you could
run.
always let them do their job, which is take care of that. You don't tell them shit. You just say, okay, what do you do? And if they don't start doing the things that they need to do, then you show them, well, you're running out of food, or you're running out of space, or they're starting to, there's grumblings, and your minions aren't happy. What do you do to fix that? You know what I mean?
Well, there is
Given,
one. The one thing we were talking about, you were talking about earlier about giving gifts for land for rewards. I've done that before too. Like, it's like, oh well, you beat this gang up. Well, you inherit the bar here in this town. What do you mean we inherited a bar? Well, they don't have any money. You got the bar.
okay.
So
well, I,
I've done
I
that
mean,
before.
I like the idea of doing that, but see, I don't mind and I think that's just presented the real reason that most DMs don't go to those higher levels is because of that. And then the other problem that I have is a lot of players don't want to go into that. So all of a sudden it just becomes, well, we're just going to adventure with more power. Whereas I actually like the part of, hey, now you have all the political alliances and now you do this.
Right, but
And, and
it seems to me that unless you cater to them and go, okay, well, you're all out like ninth to 11th level, you're never going to run into orcs and kobolds and trolls again because you're so powerful that, okay, the next progression is looking at the monster tables. Oh, I guess you're going to be running into lots of giants and stuff like that. It just seems like it's just a one up, one upping the monsters, just making the monsters tougher and tougher and tougher versus any other kind of challenge. I mean, I talk about this all the time. What's up, Hungar? Superman doesn't always fight like someone who's more powerful than the last guy in every issue over the past almost 100 years of Superman being a character. Sometimes his story arc or the story for the year is something that's not that uh, you know, cosmically powerful. It's just powerful on like a completely sideways direction that he's got to figure out. Or same thing with Batman. He never goes up levels. You know, and if the adventure for this month is chasing down some new he's like twinning. That's what's
Okay.
happening in the world that you're in. It doesn't always have to be you know, a new monster with more hit points and a better armor class, right?
Now, see, well, one is I find that boring anyway, as a player. Like, oh, now battles just take longer. We're going to do this. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind if you're going to have giants fighting each other
Well, they
and
don't
things like that.
necessarily
But
take longer if you're doing, a commensurate amount of damage because of your higher level, which isn't always the case. It just usually means you might hit more often, which could equate to more damage. But
but my point is that if you put 5 giants in there and you normally roll it, it takes forever. It takes much longer to do the combat, so it doesn't feel as smooth and quick. This is why I like doing lots of minions more than big figures. Like I have no problems if you can fight a dragon. That's a kind of a, I don't want to say end game, but you know what I mean. That's your boss
it should be
monster.
an event.
Exactly.
It should be an
Whereas
event.
whereas I know you don't like it as much, but I would much rather say, well, guess what? You're fighting the Dark Lord's army of 40,000 orcs. You're like, well, I don't like fighting orcs. Well, okay, how do you feel like fighting 40,000 of them? I that's what I would rather players do. And then you have your you might have the 2 leaders fight each other at some point in there, but you have to hack through each other's minions to get there. Um, but yeah, I there also needs to be money sinks. There needs to be a lot of stuff, which like I said, is X does all of that if you want to do the bookkeeping. But like Vic said, is a lot of DMs don't want to do that bookkeeping. They kind of enjoy running the adventure aspect and doing a module because it's a whole different game to get at high level if you're going to do it as a domain play. And to me,
I ran a campaign like that, and we got to the point where I was having to be a bank because I was like, okay, how much money did you spend? And they would start saying numbers and this and that, and I'm just like, oh God, this is, it was just, they're spending more than they were earning. Let's put it that way out in the
sure.
field. So it just really get tedious for me and stuff like that. So they're not retired, but they're semi-retired. Every once in a while, these players come back into the game and when they're needed, but most of the time they're in their fiefdoms or their castles or wherever, which is
As it should be. It could be a great uh, grounds for a new campaign when you're running those characters' children. You advance the timeline, 15, 20 years, and in
yeah,
the future, now you've got their kids want to go or get involved in some sort of mystery or adventure or some sort of court intrigue or whatnot, and you can still have all that background info without having to start over. And if the players do the work that they're supposed to, by that I mean, you know, creating lists of names, they're in charge of, and the different buildings and where the things are, and how much all those different economies. I mean, you can literally hand them the DMG and go, okay, read the section on castles and upkeeps and things like that, and be and bluff. Okay, let them think you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Make them do all the work and then just go and check and go, okay, all right, that'll be okay for this month, but next month I need, different numbers and things like that. And make them, see if they want to keep doing that, and if they don't, then by all means don't. Because you
So,
shouldn't have to do all of the work.
so I'm going to bring this a little bit different, which, again, I understand where Vic's coming. To me, if you're going to do it, is you start splitting. I don't want to say really split the party. You start splitting the players into what their characters are doing, and say, guess what? You guys do this once a month. We'll do the camp, what I want to call the administrative campaign stuff, and then say, well, guess what? You'll do the adventure at the low level as you slowly work your way up. But you start becoming the mover and shakers of stuff. You start doing the like he said, it is a lot of bookkeeping. Even when I started doing, I've been watching, I forget what it is. I was talking about grain and the number of people that are involved, and then how to set up your realistic world, and then how to do, which I know you want something really fantastic, but for me, I'm like, oh, okay. That's why I said is I like X because it breaks it down, and guess what? If you become a ruler, you still get experience. You get experience points for all the money coming in for the lands you rule. So then it encourages you
Well,
to
hold on. Let's back up
sure.
here about the money thing. I never give money or never give XP for money because they spend it. It's just like, nope, you spent it, it's gone. It doesn't matter. Now you get experience
Really,
for killing people. What I mean? I was like, hey, you kill it, you get experience. You get this. I give experience for feats or things you've done in the game, like, oh, you really worked this problem out. You
that
did
is
this
so weird.
well.
I can't
So
imagine.
Vic, which
Um,
edition are you playing?
First edition.
First edition.
I
Well,
just
it's okay.
I just decided that I don't like the XP for gold. I just hate the concept because they get a dragon, they kill a dragon, they get all this money, and then they go, "Hey, we're up a level automatically," and it's just like,
well, let me ask you a couple questions.
yeah,
Um, when depending on what they spend the money on, right? What do you think happens? Like, have you ever bought a new car, like a
oh
brand
yeah,
new car?
sure,
Okay,
appreciate
and, and,
stock,
and it and it's a gateway to new experiences.
right?
Okay, when it like okay, how about this? Have you ever inherited a sum of money from a deceased relative?
No, not really.
Okay, I have. My whole life freaking changed. I went from being, you know, okay to like, oh my gosh, I can do more things. Not to where I am now, but I can do more things. Or if you get a raise at a job and you start making more money, you you literally can go up levels in life by earning more money. I mean that's how it works. You know what I mean?
Okay,
That's
okay.
the proof that you've gone there or you've earned that.
So the way I look at it again, this is why I like level caps and stuff like that. I have no problems one way or the other. I actually do like. Um, how do I want to put this? Experience determines what your players are going to do. And if you do experience for gold, then your characters are going to go out and adventure. If you start giving them experience for running a kingdom, then they'll start running the kingdom if that's an easy way of getting money. Um,
Mhm.
Other games, and this way, the XP is the incentive for players to do something. Same thing applies for like if you do Numenera, you get XP for exploration or learning new things. So it encourages players to go out and do that. Um,
Well, that's
it's the
why I
carrot and the
give
stick.
experience for that. That's why I give experience for that. You're out adventuring. You get experience for that. You get experience for doing certain things. Like you're actually going out to find something. You know what I mean? Instead of this, hey, I got a 10,000 gold here. Oh, yeah, okay, I don't care.
Hold on a sec, guys.
Sure. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that it's a different mentality for that, and the player and the GM needs to do things accordingly. I don't really care if they jump up a couple of levels for fighting a dragon, but I want to make the dragon special. I want to make the only problem I do have with the 1E is, and this applies to a lot of them, the speeds are so slow for flying creatures. You know, if you look at how far a condor can fly in a day, you
Yeah.
know, a dragon can go a couple hundred miles. So then it's a question like, where is he? And then I want the characters to find out that way. Um, so they're just not doing it. I'm like, okay, not only do you have to get the dragon's lair, the dragon's lair is also usually someplace relatively inaccessible because he doesn't like being bothered, and you have to deal with all the other monsters to get there. And then
Right.
and again, I like logistics. I do. A lot of players don't. They just want to go out and kill stuff.
Right.
And,
Yeah, I've put dragon's lairs in places that they're just almost completely inaccessible, and I'm like, well, they're on top of a mountain now. You need to get on the right climbing rope and blah 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 blah. They're just they just look at it and go, oh crap.
well, you know what though is that makes it special. That's what we're all talking about is. If I was going to do that, then of course it would be the same thing, which is, how long until someone actually climbed Mount Everest? That took what,
Right.
hundreds, or let's see if we can go for one that's easier. Let's go for Mount Kilimanjaro. It still takes you like 8 to 10 days to go up there, and then now if you put up like giants and other stuff in between them, it's like, yeah, good luck. That's actually part of the reason I liked the G1, 2, and 3 series. Because the problem was just a module, but if you actually like read it and you look at where it was in the Greyhawk map, it was like in the middle of nowhere. The players really had to that to me is what makes it special. It's not that you find a giant
that's
like
the
around the
thing
corner.
too, is I make all my guys do on Greyhawk. I make them go travel by land. Once you get the 8th level magic users, then you got this we can teleport there. Well, no, you can't. And I try to explain it to the players. You're not going to just teleport to Geoff from the Great Kingdom if you don't know the place. So if you've never been there, you're not going to teleport over there. You know what I mean? You can think about it, but the odds of you successfully doing it are slim, very slim. So
Well, did you ever play MERP?
No.
So in MERP, they actually gave experience points for the number of miles you like walked.
Oh.
So they gave experience against that. So it was so it encouraged the players to like walk around and explore their world.
Oh yeah, well that's why I created my new world of Fair. Is this like my players have been basically, because I've been playing with these guys for 7 years and they've been all over Greyhawk. I've created this new world called Fair, and they have found a secret entrance from Greyhawk to Fair, and they are now exploring this new world called Fair. And so far, they're liking it so far. And what they don't know is some things that I probably shouldn't say on here, but that it's a lower magic world, meaning that there's less magic to be had, and now they're going to be doing some things that are let's just say they're going to be doing things that they've not done in Greyhawk. You know what I'm saying? So
Hey, what's up, Merlin?
So I'm not saying it's like you as the DM. It doesn't matter who it is
right.
Whatever you give experience for is what you can incentivize the players to do, and that's fine. Is like for me, I'd much rather give more experience points for players creating stuff than finding it. If you're going to create a magic item, I'd rather give you 100,000 XP for creating the magic item than you finding it in a dungeon. Stuff like that.
Sure, but I always use the XP table on magic items as a gauge to determine when to let them even have such an item. If, for example, like, what's one of the really expensive magic items, like a portable hole? Let's say it's like 5,000 XP.
50,000 or whatever it is, yeah.
Or folding.
Okay, it's just for argument's sake. Let's say it's 5,000 XP. Well, I'm not going to give that to a first, second, third, fourth level character because just by virtue of finding that one item, it's going to bump them up a level, and that may be a little too fast for them. If they haven't learned their character, especially like a spellcaster, if it's going to bump them into the whole nother category of spells, and they're still struggling with second level spells. Now they got to freaking struggle with third and second. Probably won't do that. If you use the XP table, for magic items and go, okay, if I give them a +2 sword, it's really not going to bump them up that much,
So
But if I give them a +5, holy crap! Now suddenly, they've gone up a whole level just by virtue of the item. Yeah, not so much. I think that was kind of built into the system where you could look at the item and go, I randomly rolled up this freaking 8,000 XP magic item. That one character is going to zoom past everybody else in the party.
Well, I got that in my campaign where they automatically roll on the tables. I just point at them, roll, 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 and I go around the table and okay, well, you got this random item. It's good or it's bad. I don't tell them what it is. I make them identify, and then when they and it's like, oh well, I'm gonna do this. Well, it's cursed. Here's what happened.
I stopped doing everything randomly because I'm in charge. And randomness I was in a game where the DM literally told us he rolled up an artifact or relic and said, nah, I'm not doing that. Well,
I've rolled up an artifact before for these guys, and I looked it up on the thing, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. They were like third level characters.
Right.
It was like, this is going to be fun. Just see what happens with this. And they blew
right.
it.
But I mean, would you literally tell them that you just denied them something cool?
Well, no,
because they randomly rolled it. What's the point of randomly rolling it?
I described the item for them, Shadow, and everything else. They get to town, and they said, well, we don't want this. And they sold it for like 2,000 gold pieces, and it was worth 50,000. So I was like,
no, that's fine. But I mean, like, I'm not going to literally like roll shit up in game and then go, no, that's too powerful. You can't have that. I'm not going to say it out loud. I might think it and just go, okay, DM fiat. No, I'll just re-roll. I'm not going to literally go, oh, I rolled up this really cool thing, but it's too powerful for you guys, so you don't get it. I'm not going to do that. That's just like, what? Why are you rolling at all then? Just decide. If you're going to arbitrarily decide yes and no on everything based on power, then why roll? Just make a list or go through the lists and go, okay, that's about right. And that makes sense for that ogre to have that +2 weapon versus going, I rolled up a +5 defender, but I'm not going to give it to the ogre because it's too powerful for the characters to get. You see what I'm saying?
I'm going to bring up two things. One is to me, it's all group XP. If you're there, you get the group XP. If you're not there, you aren't. So I don't like giving it just based on one item because, but no, one is, how do I want to put this? It doesn't encourage players to take just necessarily the most expensive item to try going up levels.
Okay, we lost Vic. Hold on. Let's get Vic back in here.
Yep, but no, what I'm saying is it doesn't encourage the players to do the most expensive stuff for their treasure so they can go up in levels the most. It encourages the players to say, okay, let's pick who can use it best. And that's part of the reason I do that as a shared group XP. But again, if you're not there, you're not there as part of the shared treasure, you don't get it, period. That's one. But then the other one also comes down to, I agree with you on like the Palladium system or something. If a player really does an excellent job of playing their role and comes up with a really good idea, I'll give you a little bit of extra bonus XP because guess what? You deserve it. But like for some of it, and then the other one is, this is what I like about Axe, is they have common, uncommon, rare, very rare, legendary items. So I can kind of go like, you know what? I want the players to get magic items, but I don't want it overpowering. So you get common and uncommon items, which means they get a lot of potions and things that are like one-use items. And then the other thing is, and this is where we're going to talk like for Numenera. Numenera has something called, I forget what they're called. But basically, they're like one-use items. And you can make them super powerful. You don't have to worry about them unbalancing your game. It's like, well, guess what? You get this. That actually a perfect example of that is the, what is it? The Rod of Cancellation, the one that removes any magic item. I love those items. They're super powerful. But
that's a very powerful XP reward item, from what I remember.
Oh, it is. But the other thing is that it encourages players to save it until it's absolutely necessary. But it also encourages players to, if they know things are common and uncommon, then they don't mind using those things left and right. The funny thing is we have magic potions, but I don't remember any of us using a healing potion the last, 10 sessions.
Well, they
my
are
guys
kind of
just healing
rare.
potions is crazy. So they live
Well,
on
no, we're high enough level that we just aren't using them. Is my point.
Oh yeah, but mine are using them like crazy because I have the rule of if it's a 20, if I roll a 20, I don't care if it's a goblin, I don't care if it's whatever, it hits you. I don't care if you're a negative whatever for your armor class. They rolled a
Yeah,
natural,
that's
you're getting
I'm
hit.
okay with that. I mean, I'm
yeah.
okay with
No,
that.
I go by the hit matrices. Even if you roll a 20, because here's the thing. Here's the problem with that. Then it ruins it in AD&D. It ruins the notion of when I'm a 15th level fighter and I don't even have to roll to hit an armor class 10 because I hit at a -6. I automatically hit. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
look at the hit
When
matrices for fighters, they get to a point where they literally can't miss. Okay, versus you literally can't hit because it says you need a 24. Okay, at your level to hit an armor class -10. But I'm just going to swing anyways because I might roll a 20. Um, then those hit matrices don't actually work the way they say they work because you're changing them at the top and bottom end just because they rolled a 20. Well, if it says you need a 24, and even with pluses, you made a 22, then you miss,
I do a little
right?
different, which is I'm going to use axe because I like axe for its clarity in a lot of stuff. But what I do is if you roll a 20, you get to roll another 20, and so
That's
you you don't automatically get to hit, but it does. Like kobolds are still a threat, but they're much less of a threat. So if they need a 26 to hit, then they have to roll the 20, and then they have to roll another 6 after that. So it doesn't give them an automatic hit. I'm okay with it because at 15th level you have enough hit points that you should be able to survive a lot of low level monster attacks. What I
Mhm.
don't like is assuming that all monsters will aim at everything, because just like in real life, you tend to aim at a center of mass at a group of people. Um, unless you're a sharpshooter or something like that, you're going to go for
Well,
what's easy
we
to
also you
see.
also need to
Yeah.
remember something too that goblins and kobolds and those, they usually swarm attack, and they're not always attacking from the front. They're attacking from the back or the sides, and
Mhm.
you're losing, your bonuses for that frontal
Your
attack. You
shield, your
don't have shield
dex, and
anymore.
and not only are you losing bonuses like shield and dex, sometimes depending on what the thing is that's attacking, if it has backstab, not only did they lose their shield bonus and their dex bonus, but the thief or assassin also gets +4. And if you just say, well, these 15 kobolds are actually first level assassins or
Yeah.
thieves, which you could do, because the wizard trained them or some shit. Then suddenly that makes them way more scary, and that would actually be like a pretty devastating threat for a fourth or fifth level party, let's say. Um,
Well, I did something sort of like that with some goblins once, my players were like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, they're all wearing sort of like these ghillie suit things, and they're hiding in the sagebrush, and they're sneak attacking at you. They know they can't defeat you with, you know what I mean, with what their numbers. So they're just stepping out of the sagebrush, shooting stuff at you, and then going to hide and stuff like that." And my players got super annoyed with it, but I was like, "Hey, you know what? Not all goblins are dumber than a box of rocks. You know what I mean? I mean, they
sure,
learn to
sure.
adapt to their environments. So
Real quick, Chris. It depends on the game for this comment. Do any of you still make the characters have to play meeting each other at the start of the campaign, or do you have them already know each other? It depends. It's there's arguments for and against. Yes and no for that.
if a
And it
character
also depends
dies
on how
in
many.
game, if a character dies in game, I will roll up really quick a NPC slash new character right then and there, and I will hand it over to the player and say, "You can play this one, or you can wait till we get back to town." and that's the way it is. Your character died.
Well,
Send him a new
no,
one.
he's talking about at first level. Do all the characters automatically know each other, or do you have them meet and then start interacting like they just met?
Oh, I'd have a
Personal.
cavern. That's
It depends.
Personal. A personal opinion, because I've encountered this. I never want to do it again. You have a dick player that wants to pretend that he's not going to do that, and I'm just like, no. Everyone knows each other beforehand. That's why you're all going to go do this. New players come in, and they have to be introduced. But I don't want to waste an hour or two. That's what session 0 is for. Hey, what are we creating? What are we going to do? And then I'm going to say, okay, you guys know
It
each
also
other.
depends on how you're playing, right, Omen? If you're playing online and you get 3 hours, and the first 2 sessions are going to get eaten up by role playing of that, them
Yep.
meeting and finding out who each other is and why they care. That could be, that could be great in the right game if that's what the players want to do. Who are you to argue? But when you've got like a larger group and it's online, you can't do that. If it's a large group in person, sure, if that's what everybody wants to do for today, fine. We still have, maybe several hours more here at the game table today on Saturday. We plan to be here for 8 hours. You guys want to screw around for 3 hours getting to know each other? Cool. If you don't, that's fine too. Y'all know each other. You grew up in the same village or some shit. You know each other, or some of you have moved in recently and you still met each other. You're still kind of hanging out, on the weekends or after work. Whatever. It's just every game is going to be different when it comes to that. But I find that if you've got like 4 people and you've got the time to spare, I would definitely try to do something like that because if you think about some of the classic introductions when Gray Mouser and Fafford met for the first time, that was an epic intro. It took a long ways for them to get there, mind you, like 3/4 of the book for them to get to that point. And a lot of people had a hard time getting there, but when you get there, especially if you just read the freaking graphic novel, it'll take you like 8 minutes to get there. It was a freaking clever introduction, and it colored the rest of their relationship for another 5 or 6 books, I think it was. But it really depends on how much time you have to play and spend at the table and the general consensus of the group. Because, you know, these days I find that every table has got like a bunch of people that have completely different goals and desires at the table, and that's a big issue for me right now playing anywhere at any time, because having a group of mixed player desires and wants, whether it's like role playing, adventure gaming, that sort of argument or what have you, to different desires for the players, it can really tear apart a game real quick when you've got a whole bunch of people that just want to go kick down doors, kill monsters, take their stuff, and repeat, versus people who want to, actually do some role playing and stay in character and actually care about those things. You put those guys together, that game is not going to run as smoothly as you want.
I'm gonna bring well, that's part of the why you have like an effective session 0, which everyone has now made that as a formal thing. But the reality of it is, we always did it informally. Hey, I'd like to do this game. What's your expectation? Oh, I'd like to do this. Okay, that's we all kind of do each other. The other issue I think we're having is having people in different time zones. Like for your game,
Sure.
we're at we're at all different time zones.
Yeah, 5 different time zones, 4 different players, and a DM. That
Well,
and the fact that
yeah,
we've been able to make it work, for as long as we have,
sure.
is amazing. With Armstrong, when we quit the game on Sunday night, it's 4 a.m. for him.
Yeah, he's in Ireland. You know,
When we quit the game, it's midnight for Off Grid. It's 8 o'clock for me, and it's what, 9 or 10 for you.
so yeah, for him, for off grid, it's 11. For me, it's 10. Um, and then, like you said, is for Armstrong, he's 6 hours ahead of us, or 6 hours ahead of me. He's 8 hours ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of the reason that sometimes I play in European games because I want to play in the morning on a Saturday, because I don't feel like I lost my whole day. Uh, I'm done by noon.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, that's why I game from my live game. I only gave 3 to 8 because it's like, okay, 8 o'clock, everybody's, they can leave there, go home, pick up their wife, and go out to do something, or they can go out
Yep.
clubbing, do whatever they want to do, and or hang out with a family before it's just too late. You know what I mean? They can
Yeah,
sit with
yeah.
their
Like my game he was talking about is Sunday night. Sunday night's like one of the hardest nights to play if you think about it. Most people got to get up the next morning and go to work.
yeah.
Staying up till midnight playing D&D on a Sunday night, that's a rough. I mean, that's a big ask. So the
Well, see,
fact that
see,
we've
see,
been able to run this game, huh?
my issue's been on weekdays. That's why I don't do it on weekdays. Like I can do Sunday
Uh-huh.
because
Uh-huh.
I can kind of I can set myself up for the next day. But on weekdays,
Mhm.
I'm like, look, I'm already exhausted from work, and now you want me to go out here at
Right,
about
right.
7 o'clock for 4 hours,
I can do a
and then I don't
I
get
can do
home.
a Friday at home game with my
Yeah,
kids, but
yeah, Friday.
I cannot do a Saturday, or I cannot do a weekday other than a Friday. It's just
No,
I get home and I'm just like, oh Jesus, I might as well just slam my head
Mhm.
into the table and go to sleep.
Right,
well, no,
right.
no, no.
I'm in a game with
Friday to me is
Bloodworth.
weekend still.
We
Friday
we
night's a
have a game
weekend to
with
me.
Bloodworth
Yeah.
that's on Tuesday night, and for me it ends at 8. Okay, that's fine. It's Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Even when Jackie had school, I could still hang out with him for a couple hours, help with his homework or whatever, and maybe even watch a movie, and then off to bed. But uh, not everybody can do that, and like Bruce doing those 12-hour games on Saturday, that's living the freaking dream as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
Considering
to
a
me,
good many of those people are right there, in person. A 12-hour game, that takes me back to high school. It's Saturday, we're playing all day. We might even play into Sunday. Who knows? As long as the
see,
parents don't mind.
see, if I was going to do that, then it would be like, look, we're going to have a meal, we're going to have lunch, we're going to have dinner, we have everything planned, and
Hmm.
we talk about sit down, family time. I'm like, well, there you go. We're going to have, guess what? We're going to break it up. We're going to have a 1 hour meal. You know, everything's made up. And I actually missed that part. I'm like, why in the world are people trying to get
Yeah.
cold pizza? And I'm like, I can make a bunch of fajitas just as easily. you know,
Sure,
everyone loves
sure. For
tacos.
Jackie's game,
Yeah.
we'll have like 6 to 9 kids at a certain time. Me and the wife will go and pick up like half a dozen pizzas. Uh, they'll eat their pizza, go right back to the game or what have you, and they get to play, between 6 and 8 hour games
Yeah.
with the group the way it was meant to be played. The
Well,
the
no,
idea
I'm saying
of
as an adult now, I want like a real meal. you know, guess what? You can
yeah,
have like, that's what I'm referring to is, and it's not that
sure, sure,
hard. I
sure. I
mean,
mean,
people do that for football all the time.
exactly. That's kind of how I think it should be. It's not it's kind of like the Super Bowl,
Yep.
because the excitement level is there. When you've got, 5, 6, 8 of your buddies all freaking hanging out, doing this thing, and they're all focused together as a group, engaging in this activity together. Everybody's paying attention, hanging on every word. It's kind of a big deal. Um, to try to parse it down to okay, trying to parse it out in sessions is kind of uh, detrimental. It kind of like waters down what it was supposed to be, in my opinion, and that being a group activity that is more than just you know like bridge night or something. Maybe almost akin to that in the way they used to do it in the old days, but it's meant to be kind of like this big deal. You're all getting together for a period of time. It's almost a celebration. You know what I mean? Not just like a 2 hour fix until you do the next thing. Okay, take care, Oben. Matter of fact, Vic, unless you have anything to add, I'm gonna say adios. I got to take care of a couple of things,
Oh, no
people stuff,
problem.
as I call
I
it.
just stopped in while I was sitting there typing away anyway, so just to see what the conversation was about.
Appreciate it. You're always welcome, Vic.
Yeah, well, I don't
Um,
try to get in arguments.
no, 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 no. I mean, that's we're all grown ups, we're all adults, and we have different experiences,
You
different
know,
play styles,
it's
different people we play
and
with.
the thing is that like I don't know, I have my Dave Con X thing, and I'm talking with somebody about I don't know. Do you know who the guy Justin Alexander is? The
Sounds familiar, but I know so many people these days.
Yeah,
It's
he's a local guy. Yeah, he leans left, and he made some statements before, and people are like, "Why do I invite him to the convention?" I'm like, "You don't understand. I can still be friends with anybody on the left or anybody on the right as long as they're reasonable and they don't, you know, do stupid shit. You know what I mean? I
the
can talk
hobby.
to anybody. You know,
This hobby should transcend all of that. If all goes well, I'm going to be writing something with OGGM, and he knows, and I know. Outside the hobby, we have completely different, you know, leanings. I'm just going to say, right?
right, right,
But I grew up in the same state, the same era, a lot of similar experiences, with obvious exceptions. But we've been friends for 2-3 years now, and we keep it to the hobby. We can get along just fine and have a great time.
and that's what
You
I'm
know,
saying to these people is just like, you know what? I don't tell you who you can have at your convention. You don't tell me who I can have at my convention. And the reason why that is because I know these people personally and I know how they act. You know what I mean? I know.
well, it's like this. Um, we have friends and we have family,
Yeah,
and we choose our friends, and our friends choose us, so to speak. And like with family, I mean, you can have people that are way opposed to like everything you think, say, and do, and you don't have a
right,
choice. You don't have a choice. They're stuck. They're there
right,
for life unless you cut them off, which is pretty rare. Let's
right,
be honest. But people who agree with you and want to hang out with you, even though when they go home and you go home, you're going to watch different channels of the news and prescribe to different things and blah blah blah. It don't matter because the time you guys hung out together and played that game are way more important than some of those other things. Some are
right.
very very important, and all you can hope is that by being the person that you are at the table, being a bro, backing them up in a fight, etc. That they'll understand that, hey, what we hear on TV isn't the same as real life. What we hear on
Right.
the internet isn't the same as real life.
Well, and that's the
What
thing.
matters what matters are actions.
People
You
get
know,
preconceived notions about other people just by some snippet of information they get. Sort of like they did the Ernie Gygax. They got this snippet of information and they say, ban him for life, and it was like, no, and I asked those reporters, those people who wrote those articles, I sent them things and I said, did you even talk to Ernie face to face or at least through the internet to find out his opinion on stuff before you wrote this article? And they didn't do it. And I'm like, that's not reporting. That's hearsay and everything else.
virtue signaling, or
Yeah,
advocacy,
right. And it's just like,
and that's not what we do.
right. It,
You
it's
know,
I was in debate club back in high school. I know how to look up information. I know how to ask questions. You know what I mean? And I know how to form an opinion, an informed opinion, not this bull crap that goes on these days. You know what I mean? The
well,
lockstep walking into political nonsense.
well, it's not just that. It's the fear porn, dude. We are inundated with scary stories all day long. You
Right.
know, and how many times have you clicked on a video with a thumbnail only to find out they don't even talk about what's in the thumbnail, or they misconstrued it, or they blew it up to the most exaggerated possible, you know, interpretation of the thing that just happened.
Oh yeah. It's ridiculous. It's just
Good point, Owen.
yeah.
And with that, I'm going to say adios. I will see you maybe tomorrow if you're up to
Maybe.
it. If not,
Yep.
I'm always going to be here Monday through Friday doing this,
All
hanging
right, man.
out with good people, talking about good games, wishing everybody a great day. Until then, happy
Hasta
trails.
luego. Bye bye.